Francesca Bell is the author of Bright Stain, published by Red Hen Press in 2019. And she's also a translator of a book called Kitchens and Trains, Poems by Max Sestner, also Red Hen Press. Oh, that's forthcoming. Is that correct, Francesca? Because I have 2023 here. Maybe it's a typo.
No, that's right.
That's great. Her poems and translations appear widely in journals such as Body, New Ohio Review, the North American Review, Massachusetts Review, Mid-American Review, Prairie Schooner, and Rattle. She lives with her family in Novato, California. Please welcome Francesca Bell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So hello, everyone. I usually say thanks for coming out tonight, but I have to say thanks for staying in tonight and showing up to hear poetry. And I'm so excited to read with Ben. And I'm really grateful to Sandy that she does so much for all of us poets. So I'm going to start with some poems that have to do with things that have been in the news recently. And this first poem has to do with a restaurant that just burned down about a week ago, restaurant at Meadowood. I don't know if anyone else has had a chance to eat there, but it was amazing. Jubilations. Every 2 minutes, an American woman is raped. Her body forced open in the time it takes me to tear into this organic tomato right to its pulpy center and bite in, letting juice run down my chin, stinging. This tomato, a celebration on my tongue, reminding me of the night we spent $600 on dinner for two, as that man in Colorado loaded guns into his car. Food arrived on silk pillows, tiny purple carrots, radishes like marbles, fairy vegetables, and a miniature individual loaf of bread for each course, and each course with its own silverware and army of people washing in the back. As we clinked our glasses together, he checked his ammunition and gas mask, and people wondered, popcorn or candy? This morning, I ran through a forest kept tidy by rich people like me, Eminem shuffling smoothly through my iPhone. Somewhere in China, a young man folded his ruined hands in his lap. My palms were raised, open. I imagined texting prayers straight to heaven. OMG, OMG, thank you for this world of green grass and suffering. And this next poem, following the current theme, has to do with a topic that's very much in the news right now, which is abortion. And it has an epigraph from Pope Francis. It's like hiring a hitman. Right to life. I know what you are, little hitman, little cherub, snuck up into me, swum past my barriers, implanting like a movie monster who takes a person hostage from the inside. You merely tap your unformed foot and my body bursts into symphony, blood volume cranked dizzyingly up, breasts swelling in fiery crescendo. Nausea slams me forward, just as your father liked me, a body bent double to take him. I'm on my knees, little one, surrendered, vomit heaving out of me like prayers. I know, oh, I know the life you've come for. This next poem I wrote in the early days of the pandemic, which seems like a million years ago, and the poem feels a little quaint to me now. And the title is the first two words of the poem. Even prayer hasn't solved this problem that replicates as it goes, minting itself like coins in the lung sacs. Our cells slot machines, lights blinking as they spill their jackpots into the startled rooms of the body. This spring, in the gone quiet world, Coyotes yip on San Francisco street corners as our hearts slow in our housebound torsos. No one can find yeast anywhere or flour. People having decided suddenly to bake, to punch the dough down and watch it rise, like possibility or a beloved chest as its small soul fights. The Christians flout the stay-at-home orders and go to church. Jesus is their face mask, or so they say. Though surely God made the virus in his own image, invisible, impossible to pin down, and he's loose, crazy in the world's lungs, and fills them with begging. Look how he causes our breath to stagger before him. No need for any building larger than a cell. He's gone forth now to multiply. So charming, his laugh infects everyone. So when I was in my early 20s, I spent about 4.5 years working as a massage therapist. And I've finally written a couple of poems about that, and this is one of those. I leave my window open now to hear them. Nights, I hear barn owls calling, shrill as hunger stripped bare, and think of the onion farmer from east of the mountains, his broad, exhausted body on my massage table. The owl, he told me, screamed all winter from his rafters. He said the sound made the cold colder when he trudged from field to barn to house. After I touched all the places I was licensed to, bunched tender shoulders that crept toward his ears, beat up hands, leathery as a dog's paw pads, each buttock's lonely hillock giving gently beneath my forearm strokes. He sat up and asked if I'd have sex with him. He promised not to hurt me, to buy me dinner after. He said it plain, did not look away. But I was 20 and knew nothing of desolation or owls or wintering over onions or of a farmer pacing ugly acres as layer upon layer of stinging, weeping sweetness forms beneath the frozen solid ground. Many of the people in the audience will already know about this, but as a woman gets older, she gets to go through all kinds of fun transitions, as if the transitions of her earlier life had not been enough fun. And so this poem is about one of those transitions called perimenopause. And for those of you who don't know it, it's the roughly 10 years before you go through menopause when you mostly get to suffer. There are little perks though, and that's what this is about. Perimenopause. Mornings now, I shave the dusky down mustache from my upper lip. My skin, unused to the razor's blading glide, its scrape, breaks open in tiny bumps. The way I'm casually broken open all the time lately, my tears unchanneled, and at the smallest provocation, making glistening runnels down cheeks that sprout a new meadow of man fuzz. Like the boys of my youth, I gangle, awkward, trip over my own altered self, my loins alight with a strange new life. Last week, in the produce aisle, a man I've never been drawn to hugged me. His hands warm the way a pilot light is warm. Its staid flicker merely dependable in the dusty window of a hot water heater. But I danced to life like a kerosene slick, touched by the sweet carelessness of a match, and stood there, helplessly burning. So when you reach this age, you also know that your looks are fading, because all of a sudden people keep saying things like, "You're still beautiful." And that's what this poem is about. Manifest image. The man keeps telling me I'm beautiful. I still look young. He says it like I've asked for it, but I don't care for him or beauty. I am content to slip into old, wrinkled plainness, to walk on unimpeded. I was young once. My body stunned. My breasts were really something, but I was something else entirely, something no one could see until now. So also, since I was in my early 20s, I've been slowly going deaf. And now I'm far enough along that I finally had to save my family and give in and get hearing aids a few years ago. And they are a miracle, but the hard thing about it is you have to have your hearing tested all the time, which is horrifying when you're going deaf. What small sound? In the audiologist booth, I clutch the device with the button I'm to press if I hear a tone, hand clammy, the way a child holds the finger of an adult she thinks can save her. Behind the one-way glass, my ears are cupped in the pitching headset, cilia becalmed, the quiet so thick I cannot stop myself from thinking of Jupiter, its plentiful moons I'm afraid to look at through the telescope, the stillness out there strong enough to suck me in. What small sound might those moons make, spinning in their vacuum, while I sit for what I know is too long between tones? I'm here to bear witness to this deafness that expands imperceptibly, the way the universe, they say, is expanding, even as my world narrows, sound swirling around the drain of this loss. Into the silence of the audiologist booth fall consonants, vowels, rain against my windows, my lover's voice disappearing like a star's light being swallowed and swallowed as it dies. So once you get hearing aids, there's quite a period of adjustment, because you have in fact gotten very used to your deafness. And so this is a poem I wrote during that early phase with the new sound coming into my ears. Hush. Evenings, sick of acuity and its cost, I pull at my hearing aids until what entered each ear slides slowly out, drawing sound along with it. Deafness a relief, as when I've had all I can take of pleasure and push my lover from my body. The world, it's true, is less, absent the part of him that fills and empties me at once. Ecstasy and overwhelm, like life's din, played by the devices in my head. Insistent music, I finally writhe away from. I was realizing when I put this evening's poems together that I might soon have a book filled with poems just about medical experiences. And this is about, I had a frozen shoulder recently, and that's what I wrote this poem about. Piece by piece, this world, it wears you down. When the doctor suggests the cortisone shot, says she wants to go deep into the joint whose hollow thud has ached you awake 7 long months, the way loneliness keeps you from ever resting, it's gnaw what touches you when no one touches you for a long time. You agree immediately to open your flesh to the needle's slender precision, despite its sting at the moment of entry and the frightful throb as it bathes the place your shoulder grinds in its socket, where it catches your breath in its fist whenever you try to take off your shirt. You don't care if the drug erodes you from the inside. You think it's a medicine like love that will first dissolve the adhesions that bind you, and then you. But you would pay any price to be able again to toss yourself over night's bridge and fall all the way to sleep. By the time the doctor lays her gloved hands on you, you are 53, so scarred from holding yourself against the pain of the pain, you smile and welcome the needle's glint. How casually it casts light off a coldness you might once have mistaken for menace. How great the mercy that will not retreat until it pierces the place you lie curled, alone, and waiting. And I'm going to close with a poem that is, it's quite new, and it's written after a close friend and I were talking about how much we each love bones. And my friend gave me the gift of this story from when he was in medical school in Afghanistan in the 90s. And I wrote this poem as an effort to give him something worthy back. Some were weary with their edges worn out. Because it was Kabul in 1999, because they were forbidden and he was afraid of them, he left at first the bag of human bones handed down by his cousin in a distant room on the other side of a courtyard, and only touched them now and then when he absolutely had to master their geography. But slowly the bones migrated to his medical school bedroom, and he spent long hours exploring them, arranging them on his bed into what approximated a human form. Though, because the pieces were from several different bodies, it remained a flawed puzzle, a collection of parts like all of us that didn't quite fit. Nights, he memorized each bone's landscape, the way a person studies a new lover's body until his hands have it by heart. He slid his fingers into each smooth fossa, along every notch and groove, feeling where muscles once attached or inserted, where blood vessels passed through. He hadn't known there would be fissures, holes, so very many depressions. He hadn't expected to regard the broad wings of the Ilia and see a cradle where a child could rest, or his father, twin crests where a lover might have anchored himself, back when the hips carried their burden of flesh, and the flesh the weight of its longing. Once he fell asleep, holding the skull's hollow to the emptiness of his own heart as it beat and beat against its shelter of bone. Thank you.